This tutorial is how to make an adult-sized beanie hat on your circular knitting machine. I'm using the Premier Everyday Soft Worsted Anti-Pilling yarn, and this is 180 yards. You can use any yarn that you would like. This one's a medium number 4 weighted yarn. I find this really works really well on my knitting machine, and I also find that this yarn is extremely soft, but any yarn you would like, you can do. I'm not promoting any yarn. I just personally prefer this yarn. So with my skein, I like to take that inner ball that's inside the yarn and find the working end, so it comes out smoothly and has the least knots and doesn't get tangled. To yarn on, I prefer to start at the white needle, which is technically the 48th needle. And then you're going to weave the yarn to the inside and outside of each needle, back and forth to yarn on, all the way around till you get back to your starting needle. Mine's the white needle. And then once I get back there, you're going to put it in the yarn holder. You want to make sure that it's seated all the way down, the yarn into the yarn holder. And then I like it for the number 4 yarn in the middle loop of the tension. Now we're going to start to yarn on, and it should kind of look like this when you first start going around. And then I like to do between 5 and 7 hand cranks before I get my drill attachment out to make sure none of the yarn has slipped or any stitches are missing. And then you just want to make sure that the drill is spinning the same way that you're cranking your machine. I always like to crank away from me, and so I just make sure the drill is also going to crank it away from me, or else if it cranks the opposite way, it will drop the stitches and you'll have to take it all off and redo. So for an average one size fits all adult hat in the number 4 weighted yarn, it's about 120 rows. And so that's what this one skein will do almost exactly. It's 120 rows, and you'll see at the end I have just enough to be able to yarn off for the adult hat. If you want an extra large hat, you probably want to do around 135, 140 rows. So now that I'm back to my last row, 120, and I'm at my white needle, I take the yarn out of the yarn holder and I put it in a needle, and now we're going to yarn off. And every time I crank around after that white needle, the next needle, when it goes down, you're going to slip that last stitch off of the machine and on to the end of your needle and your working yarn end. And I do it this way. Some will do one full crank around and then remove each one, but I find if you crank all the way around, they're going to be just at that last point of them coming off the needle, and it's really easy to drop a stitch and then your project unravels and you have to redo it all. So I just do it one by one. It takes a little bit more time maybe, but this way you're not going to redo your project. So my last one I take off is my 48th needle, or the white needle at the very end. And now you're ready to start constructing your hat. So once you take it off, you have 2 ends of your tube. This side right here, this is the wrong side or the inside of your project, and then you have your outside. So find one end of your working yarn and we're going to cinch it tight. And then I just kind of mess with the stitches to make sure they all lay the way I like it. And then we're going to take that working yarn and pull it through to the other side of the tube. And so you're going to have 2 layers to this hat, which makes it really nice and warm and thick. And then once you get it kind of set so it's not twisted or anything, we're going to take that inner tube and we're going to cinch it now completely tight. And then once you have it cinched the way you like it, where it's tight and it looks good, there's no weird pockets or puffs of your stitches, then you're going to take your needle and you're going to do a little knot, and then I sew through that upper circle. And this is just going to make sure that that last end working yarn is completely sewn in so your project does not unravel and stay tight. So once that's done, now we're going to take the other side of our tube and find the other end of the yarn, and we're going to cinch this one down closed. Again, just working the stitches to make sure they're all folded in so it makes that nice tight round top to your hat. And once I get it laying the way I like, I'm going to take both ends and I tie, just kind of straighten it up to make sure they're both up, and then I tie a knot at the top. And then I take my needle, attach it to my end of my yarn, and again you're going to sew through that top part of the hat. Now I'm going through both layers, and again this is just making sure your project stays together and does not come apart or unravel. Once that's done, I put both working yarns through and I figure out which side I like to be my outside. And then again, once I pull it through to the other side, I do a couple more knots at the top just for extra security. Now the optional part is you can add a little puff to the top of your hat, which I think makes it just look really cute. You can buy these on Amazon, and this one has a little elastic band that I just put the yarn through. And then I like putting one yarn into the inside, and then I'll do the other yarn in, and then I can tie a bow. This not only secures the little puff, but then it also makes it so you can remove it, because this yarn is machine washable and dryable that I'm using, but the puff is not. So if you're gonna wash it, you need to remove the puff before you do so. And then I just tie little knots at the end of my bow so it doesn't come undone. And now your hat is complete, and you can make it so it has a little brim if you want, and it's all ready to go. And this project, it's one skein, and it probably takes me about a half hour in total to make it. So I hope you have fun making your winter beanie hat.